Hey everybody, it's Jillian. So I want to cover this because this needs to be covered. When I went to Portugal, I went to a very religious place in the Catholic religion, and that is Fatima. And Fatima is a place where I think there's like three children that saw an apparition of Mary, Mother of God, I think, in several different places. And then there was a lot of controversy and politics that happened thereafter, and it's become a pilgrimage site for a lot of different people. And so, um, and then we hear all over the internet that the Catholic religion is satanic and they do all this devil worship. And then we hear about crimes being committed through the Catholic Church. And I'm like, okay, there really has to be something to this. Because it seems like all the different movies out there have to do with exorcisms and horror movies having to do with priests and nuns. And I'm like, what is the deal with this? So there has to be some kind of truth. And then you have people who are in the Catholic religion who are like, what the hell? It's all this conspiracy stuff that people are just mischaracterizing and they don't understand where all this stuff comes from. And then you see all the different art in the Catholic Church and the different statues and the reliefs, and then it's just you can always characterize and have your perception of a piece of art be whatever you'll project whatever it is that you believe, and you're always going to find evidence to support your belief system, always. But we have found, just by understanding what viruses are, what bacteria is, how they impact weak bodies will then translate into behaviors in people, whether it's bullying, whether it's major crimes against humanity like the Jeffrey Epsteins and the Alan Dershowitz, to wars being started. And this is happening on people's bodies that are full of imbalances, full of cancer. What is cancer? When you have a malnourished body full of viruses that could potentially do good for you, but you have a very malnourished body that's causing all of these different disruptions and malfunctions, and then it comes out and manifests into bad behavior, which then could be construed as evil and satanic. And so I'm like, well, what is evil? What is evil? Because there's like good and evil. What's good and evil? Good is something where it's like people have characterized good as like love, 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 and acceptance and no killing or something like that. And they construe evil as death and destruction and mean and bullying and all of that, right? And you see it like criminals out there being construed as evil. But it goes deeper than that. Because then I'm looking at like, okay, these bacteria and viruses, okay? These bacteria and viruses, you can see, well, if you look at your desk, now I guess if you look at the microscope and you were to like check out all the germs on your desk, you can see through a microscope all the different types of germs, and you do a swipe and put it on a petri dish, and then you can then go and grow it in a lab and say, okay, you have this, you have Staphylococcus, you have this bacteria, that bacteria, whatever. And then they say, okay, so your whole desk is full of bacteria. Yeah, if they did like a whole swipe on my desk, they'd find all kinds of bacteria. It's not necessarily bad. It depends on how it manifests on your body. Oh yeah, Tanya. Thank you. So I was looking up Staphylococcus. I'm like, is there a healthy amount of Staphylococcus bacteria? And there is. When there's an infection like the MRSA, it's because that bacteria got out of control. It got into your system and then it started taking over. And then what happens is when you have these bacteria that get out of control, it creates where it destroys your body, and then it starts consuming everything and infecting your body. And then the bad behaviors start manifesting: fear, bullying, death and destruction, all of that. And then also, yeah, the sex crimes, okay? And then the divide and conquer, taking a side. And so the Vatican are full of people who are aging. The priests are aging. The Pope is aging. They're not evil. They're just full of the viruses and bacteria is out of control. Because when you're aging and you're drinking lots of alcohol and you're aging and all this other stuff, those bacteria and those viruses that can live outside the body for a certain amount of time, okay, they actually can control your body to where, because you're not feeding your body. So guess what's going to be under death and destruction? Your body, as these bacteria and these viruses actually take over. So then you're seeing these viruses manifest your behaviors in evilness, trying to spread itself. It's the destruction of other things, not the destruction like it's just like a cancer. It's just trying to take over. Just like a person, like just like your political group. You're trying to take, like if you're a Republican, you're trying to take over the Democrats. You're trying to consume the Democrats. You're trying to demonize the Democrats. And vice versa. The Democrats are trying to take over the Republicans, demonize. And so you have this battle back and forth. And that's always been our political system. That's always been in your body too. You have this battle for your life or the life of this bacteria that actually is supposed to be living symbiotically with your body. But with these imbalances, because of your lifestyle and your belief system, one's going to win out and one's going to manifest your behaviors based upon who's winning. Just like the history books are based upon who won. Does it mean that it's all true? Not necessarily. It can mean that just someone's perception of events. But still, everything is written by the winners. The death shows you who's won. When you guys die, guess who won? The viruses and the bacteria. Because you lost, you're dead. And then you see the death trajectory in all of your behaviors. You see it when people, you are so hating against all the Democrats. You're so hating against all the Republicans. And then you see people aging. Well, there you go. The Catholic Church is aging. Everybody in the Catholic Church is aging. And then there's these viruses that they don't know how to control. Now, what they're doing now with the Catholic Church, because they are like, they give out the Nobel Peace Prize and all this stuff to like Max Planck, was it Copernicus, Galileo, all these different, I guess, what would you call it? Inventors and discoverers way back when they had the telescope and they try to figure out the universe and then try to figure out the body and then the earth. So you see, there's pontifical sciences in the Vatican. Okay, that's why the Vatican is so huge. That's why the Catholic religion is so huge, because they understand it's all connected. They haven't figured out the formula to life because they're still working with trying to stop the programming, but not implement a new programming to then live symbiotically together. See, that's the difference, is it's always this for and against, Democrats versus Republican, the bacteria, Staphylococcus versus probiotics. They're supposed to live and coexist together. But that's not what's going on. It's either the bacteria is going to win or it's you're going to win. But you don't realize that you still need the yeast. You still need the Staphylococcus. You still need all these bacteria, the microbes that are all in the dirt and all over your body and all over your desk if you haven't cleaned your desk. Okay? You simply trying to and take all these antibiotics, you simply trying to kill all the microbes out there in the world. You're putting yourself in a bubble and you're weakening your body because you're not living symbiotically. Every single time you take a side against Democrat or Republican, you are weakening your position. When you concentrate so much on destroying somebody else, guess what? You're destroying yourself in the process. That didn't even resonate with me, because I'm thinking of another scenario about when you focus so much on destroying somebody else, you're actually destroying yourself. That happens in every single argument when it comes to taking a side. Okay? There is a way to live symbiotically together. And so when I read this thing about MRSA, about Staphylococcus and stuff like that, then I read about these ghost stuff. I'll get to that in a minute. But Staphylococcus aureus bacterium live naturally on the skin or in the nose of 1 in 4 people. However, if the bug gets inside the body, that can cause serious infection, blood poison, and even death. A superbug form of the bacteria called MRSA. So where does the superbug come from? Because it's people who are getting infected with staph infections because they're not taking care of themselves. the bug gets stronger as it gets passed down to each person. So before it was just a benign thing that we all had. They say 1 in 4, but I think it's a lot more than 1 in 4. I think everybody has a form of staph on their body. Okay? But what happens is that you have a weak body, you have open sores and all these different things. And so these bacteria get inside and they start taking over. And now you have an out of control bug in your body. Then you're going to be taking antibiotics to try to control it. And then now you're throwing the balance off your body yet again. Now it's not necessarily leaving you open for other viruses. It's just destroying your ability to protect yourself, because you're always going to be exposed to viruses. And then you're not strengthening your own programming. So guess what? You're going to be susceptible to all of these bacteria and viruses programming until then they actually program you out of existence. And then they go jump to another person who will then, they will try to take over that programming, or that person will live symbiotically with that bacteria, keeping everything balanced. You see how that works? So why some people will not have any symptoms when they're around a sick person, and another person would completely just like be in bed for the next month. Because if your body is that weak, you cannot be around anything, anybody. You'd have to live in a bubble, which means that you basically cannot handle your environment. You have a very, very short shelf life. So when it comes to the Vatican and all the ghost stuff, so you're seeing all of this art in the Vatican, well, they're actually depicting the internal chaos within the church and the people of the church and all of their constituents. Okay, because they're practicing antibiotic practices. When you go to Mercy Hospital, that's a Catholic-run hospital. They deal with antibiotics. They deal with taking organs out. That's the complete allopathic holistic model, is the Catholic Church. And so when you're taking organs out and you're using antibiotics and you're doing immunotherapies, you're going to allow these bacteria and these viruses that are actually good basically take over a body and then cause people's behaviors to be quite evil and bullying and then victimizing weaker populations. And this is where you get the whole evil Satanism going on. Some of you have been studying it in Hollywood. There are evil people in Hollywood because they have imbalances. You look at some of the actors, they're really imbalanced, okay? Some are dealing with Parkinson's. Others have committed crimes against children. Others have died from cancer. They're not exactly the bastion of great health. Yeah, they might be in these exercise type commercials where they're doing the ab roller or something, but they're steadily aging. That's Suzanne Somers. She's not an example of a great healthy person. So you're going to see all types of people and different religions. The Hindu religion, when you go to India and they're doing all these turmeric and spices and all this stuff, that's antibiotic. It basically destroys the immune system in the body. And so the virus programming that's prevalent in India is going to take over and destroy the person. Okay? So the Vatican isn't satanic. Satanism is a way to explain evil behaviors that come from a malfunctioning body because it's not knowing how to live symbiotically with all of the bacteria that your body needs, as well as all the viruses your body does need. But you have to actually bring in the nutrition to be able to live symbiotically. Why we have racism? Because we have people who are not knowing how to live symbiotically with themselves, and they can't live symbiotically with other races because they've created that division. Okay? So when I was thinking about the ghosts and why, when I'm watching these ghosts, like I watch TV a lot, okay? Obviously. I don't play the avoidance game of, I'm not going to watch TV because it's brainwashing. That's another allopathic, holistic brainwashing. Every single communication out there is something for you to listen to and understand, and then filter through either a very imbalanced body where you're totally like discriminatory and judging, or you're going to filter it through a balanced body, and then you're going to take that information, and it's going to be more data for you then to figure out how this world truly works. So when I watch the ghost adventure shows or these haunting shows, and I always see, it seems like every single person has been sick in these shows when they're being haunted by some ghost that's harassing them. And then some of these ghosts go after like the weakest link in that family, like a child or a very sick person. And then they had to bring in the priest to go do an exorcism. And then you know about the movie The Exorcist, where the girl's head's spinning and she's throwing up and all this stuff. Well, yeah, I mean, that's, when you think about it, these viruses are like the ghosts, because you really can't see them through the naked eye unless you look at it. Like, I mean, I guess I've heard that these viruses and bacteria can live longer outside of a biological entity, like on a surface. And then viruses have a shorter life, but what does that shorter life mean? It could be, it's relative to what's long and what's short. So when somebody has passed away because they've been eaten by viruses, and then all that's left is no more matter, but just the virus spirit, the virus energy, is still that malevolent energy that a weak person is going to be able to sense it, because kindred spirits, you bring people that you can relate to in your world. So the people that you hang out with are the people that you can relate to the most, because you have the same biochemistry, the same weaknesses, or the same strengths, however you want to characterize it based upon the context. So these spirits find their kindred spirit. And so these viruses can live on objects. And if they had a very violent death, that virus energy is still going to have that trauma still held within it. And then it's on this object, which is like a virus on an object, okay? Because it's gone through your body. These viruses that are very strong, they've gone through the programming of your body, and then when you transmute it and transmit it onto somebody else, it's stronger. That's why spirits get stronger when people are so afraid and so fearful of their environment, or the house that they're living in, that has some spiritual entity that they can sense. Because I wonder, why haven't I had any, paranormal experience? But everybody in my life, well, not everybody, but a lot of people have said that in their life that they've had those. And I'm like, it makes you wonder what state their body is in to be able to experience those paranormal experiences. So people say, oh, it's a strength, it's a gift. That's how you want to characterize your weaknesses, okay. But then they talk about having salt, and then I know Christina's talking about how salt actually reflects, which is true. Salt reflects back the state that your body's in. Salt may kind of contain a ghost or a bad spirit, but it's still there. It's not flushing it out. It just has it contained in a different area. Okay? So a strong person will be able to ward off all of that negative energy, or a strong person can ward off viruses to where it can take on the virus programming but not get glitches because the virus didn't take over. Both the body and the virus were able to live symbiotically together, where one didn't overtake the other. Okay, but when somebody dies, their virus energy, which is this very negative energy, because it ate up that biological entity, and there was left only the virus, which is then Kevin's going to talk about the ether, which holds trillions and trillions of other virus energy and other energies of which you can never get away from, okay? Like the junk DNA in your body that he's going to talk about is actually a virus energy that can be exploited based upon how you take care of your body, okay? And so the Vatican isn't like a devil worshiper. They're just manifesting the chaos inside. And then look at our society, the death programming, the way in which we handle cancer, disease, and chronic illness, all of the TV programs with the zombies and the wars and all of the division and the politics. It's just a reflection of humanity's internal chaos. And so the Vatican isn't satanic. They're just a reflection of what they believe in, which is that it's okay to age, it's okay to degrade. But when you age and you degrade, you're subject to glitches. And when someone is subject to glitches, they can do really evil stuff, but it's based upon the conditions of your body. Not everybody that has glitches in their body are going to turn to aggressive crimes. Some people just have other ways to manifest the imbalances. They're more on the love side versus the hate side. But both sides have major imbalances that will cross boundaries when they justify it appropriate. Or indifference. They're not even acknowledging what exists. They pretend it doesn't exist, and they live in their false reality until one day there's a wake-up call, and now they're diagnosed with the disease and they don't know what to do. That's the other side of it. So there's love, hate, indifference, and acknowledgement. Acknowledgement is a place to be because you understand the world that you live in, but you're not indifferent and you're not extreme, the love and the hate. But right now we're seeing the Vatican being characterized as a satanic. No, it's just that you have aging people. The leaders in the Vatican are all getting older. When you age, you have cell degradation. When you have cell degradation, you're going to have major glitches. How many times have you guys gone to the hospital or to the doctor? Because you want to go and manage your symptoms with antibiotics, with immunotherapies, with all these different things, or you go see a naturopathic, homeopathic therapist to go and do whatever they got to do to get you out of that scenario, to stop the virus programming right there, but doesn't necessarily help the full mind, body, and spirit, or the body, mind, and spirit, because you have to take in nutrition. Okay? Taking in nutrition through the gut, that's your gut brain, will then clear away all the crap in your body so your mind can think correctly. So then you have access to the spirit, and that's how you align everything. But you have to understand where it comes from first. The balance comes from the gut first. And that's not only what you eat, but it's also what you believe in, because if you eat certain foods, then you have all these symptoms, then you're going to go and take antibiotics. You're going to go take these short-term therapies. You're going to do all these different things, and you're still going to glitch. And then you'll pass away with all of your symptoms. So the evil spirits aren't evil spirits. It's just that these bacteria that you have to live symbiotically with, you have to coexist with, are taking over your body, and then you're glitching. You have cancer, disease, obesity, chronic illness, fibromyalgia, other parasites. Okay, because viruses are parasites. You can't see them. You can only see them through a microscope when it's in the environment of a biological entity. And then they can live for a certain amount of time on objects. So I would love to see somebody who is dealing with a ghost entity in their house, and then they find out that it's an object in the house that's causing these spiritual, ghostly type of hauntings. They go take it under a microscope in a lab, in a biological lab, and see what kind of bacteria and viruses that are on these things, these objects. Okay, yeah, I mean, if you guys go and just take all your objects in your house and you go put them under a microscope, and someone that knows how to look at these bacteria, or take like a Q-tip in a petri dish and then put it, and then go have it tested in a lab, you can see the type of viruses that a person has. Or just they do a titer test. Crap, forget doing the wiping the surfaces. Do a titer test on the entity that passed away. But some of these entities have died like, hundreds and hundreds of years ago, and that residual energy is still there. So I think viruses and bacteria definitely can live because they reproduce. There's bacteria that are dry bacteria that come to life when it's wet. Some of these bacteria have been frozen, and when they're unfrozen, they come to life. Water brings them to life. Okay? So it's not just viruses, it's also bacteria. Like someone the other day that, a couple days ago, had to go to the hospital because of a staph infection. That's a bacteria out of control. But you need a certain amount of staph bacteria in your body. But when it gets out of control on your body, then yeah, you have an issue. So the Vatican is not satanic. They're just like everybody else out there. And when you look at the Hindu, like all these different religions that believe in death, they all have some form of good and evil. You have a healthy person and an unhealthy person. At some point, you're good because you're all well balanced and beautiful, and then people turn evil because the body is degrading and it's making them glitch and cause them to have bad behaviors, which then someone can characterize as satanic, evil, all of that. Okay? So good is a well-balanced, evil is somebody imbalanced and exhibiting characteristics of a virus and a bacteria taking over and destroying them. And then when you are sick, you're communicable, you strengthen that virus, strengthen that spirit, strengthen that bacteria, and then you throw it on somebody else. And guess what? Either they're going to receive it very well, They're going to receive it very, yes, we are, Tanya. They're going to receive it very well and then enhance themselves, or they're going to then be destroyed by that strong virus bacteria programming. And so you guys are individually responsible to keep your body well balanced. So when you are exposed to someone like that has the Ebola virus, you're not going to die from that exposure. This is why the vaccine industry exists. And then this is because the government can't legislate morals. They can't make you eat right and understand probiotics, understand pain and healing, because the Vatican also is against pain. So this is why the Vatican is becoming more what you think is satanic, because the more that they basically run away from pain, the more they throw antibiotics at you, the more mutated and glitchy people get, because they cannot handle the amount of bacteria, or the amount of bacteria and virus programming on a very weak body. And then Jessica says, and think of the ways people clear objects under. Right, when you're using organite, okay? Organite. When you're using all of these types of like crystals that are so full of color, that actually is heavy metals. And if you already are over mineralized in your body and you're playing with organite, guess what? You cause an imbalance. No, Tanya, the government wants you to be healthy. They just don't have the means to. We're not doing conspiracy bullshit. We're not, Tanya. No, 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 no. The government wants you to be healthy, but you have an ignorance that you won't let yourself be healthy because you have this perception and this paranoia that then infects the population with your misinformation. And so then people think that, oh, don't take vaccines because they're poisonous because of what you just propagated. The government doesn't want us to be healthy. Bullshit. They want you to be healthy, but you want to be ignorant and you want to pass along the fear, and that is infectious. That is cancerous, is the fear. That's why I've had little patience with some of you, because you're still buying into the conspiracy bullshit. And this is what's causing these pandemics. You're seeing in the Congo, they're afraid of vaccines because of that very thought process. The government wants to kill their people. That's what's going to decimate your friends and your family, as well as other countries, because they don't know any better. They're not educated to understand how science and chemistry works. And so they rely on their friends because they think the government is so evil and dangerous. Because of that, what you just said, you should really delete that comment, because there's no context around that comment, except that you think the government is dangerous. They don't want us to be healthy. What are you saying, Tanya? Please just stop speaking. We have people who are in our government dealing with their own cancer, disease, and chronic illness, trying to get market share, trying to be elected. They're going to have their own agenda. The government in of itself is not bad. They're there for a reason. It's the people in the government who are dealing with their own cancer, disease, and chronic illness is what's causing some of these perceptions. Because we are creating children who are imbalanced. We're not taking care of ourselves, Tanya, to create a balance to where you can have a balanced Democrat and Republican or a one world order. Okay, because in the future, since we have a lot of ignorance out there, people are going to decimate themselves. They already are doing it with the fear campaigns, with the conspiracy stuff, with the practicing the holistic and the allopathic. So they'll be taking themselves out of existence. And then eventually we're going to have a more well-balanced population that are not going to subscribe to the Democrat or the Republican or anything else of that matter, or any other type of special interest, or fear the government. Because you have to have some kind of centralized body, because we have very imbalanced people out there who are afraid of the government, who are afraid of each other, who will cause division, who will bully mothers and kids and other people. We can't control those types. So that's why we have law enforcement, and that's why we have government. So we can have somebody go and keep those people and bring them to justice if they do wrong things. so we can still live and get on the internet and play our activist game. Not that it's really helping us, but at least they give you the freedom to be able to walk to your mailbox and open your mail and cash a check without somebody coming in and destroying you at the same time. Okay? So anybody that fears the government, anyone that says the government wants to kill you, anybody that says that all these agencies are horrible, anybody that says that the Democrats and Republicans are horrible, they're just fucking people, guys, that have imbalances, and you're just as guilty as they are. Anytime you take a side against the government, against the Democrats or the Republicans, or both, and you play the conspiracy game, and you demonize the government, you demonize anybody, I don't care who it is, anytime you demonize anybody or anything, you are feeding into the same BS of the death trajectory. So that is an example, Tanya. So you can transfer that to something else and it'll still be the same thing. You now have to get off your programming of demonizing anything and understand there's a place for the government. There's a place for vaccines. There's a place for everything. But you have to understand what happens when you have too much of antibiotics or too much of a holistic supplement or too much of anything. It causes imbalances. But right now we need more government than not because we have a very imbalanced population. The more balance you get, Tanya, the less the government's going to be on your ass. It's all about balance, girl. So if you keep propagating fear against the government, that's when the government's going to be more on your ass because you're creating fear. You don't understand there has to be a balance. But the more well-balanced you are, Tanya, guess what? You're not going to have the government on your ass. It'll be on somebody else's ass because you're not worried about what happens to somebody else. You're only worried about yourself. So it doesn't matter if somebody down the street has their rights taken away because they've probably created it or they had a situation that you don't know fully about and it's none of your business. You take care of your world. We're so worried about what happens over there. We don't take care of our own world. And that's how we create this whole totally like chaos and assumptions. Major assumptions. And then you have people in the Congo, they're listening to the internet and watching all these fear campaigners against the government, against vaccines, and they're killing all of the peacekeepers. They're trying to come in and vaccinate them because Ebola is getting out of control. Okay? So the more well-balanced we are, the less the government's going to be on your ass. If you're so anti-government, then balance yourself. Because the world really is through your eyes. And if you're imbalanced, the world's going to be imbalanced. If you're balanced, then the world will be balanced. You'll understand everything has a place, and a place has everything. And so the Vatican is not satanic. They just have a way of dealing with cancer disease and chronic illness that's causing more imbalances. And we need to change the paradigm to then exemplify balanced behavior through cabbage water and salt and probiotics. And, you see, people make jokes out there about stuff. People will take these jokes as truth. When they say that there were meth gators, don't flush your drugs down the toilet because then the alligators will then become all drugged out and now you have meth gators. People took that shit seriously. That's what happened. Okay? So we don't want to put anything out there. It's going to cause fear. It's going to cause division. Get yourself well balanced. And then your world will be well balanced. Your kids will be well balanced. You won't overstep your boundaries in any way, shape, or form. You will live and let live. You'll know how to speak very plain, very frank. You won't be so parasitic on somebody else. You'll learn how to be more self-sufficient in the areas that make sense. You'll prioritize. You won't live in fear anymore. And you'll keep living. So no, the Vatican is not satanic. It's just the imbalances. Because I see people who aren't Catholic exemplify satanic behavior. Not that they're satanic, but where they are in a death and destruction type of behavior, which they have characterized as satanic. But when you believe that people should die, it's like, you know, it's okay to watch somebody basically kill themselves slowly. I don't believe anyone should die. There is a formula that keeps regenerating cells. There is a formula that keeps regenerating cells, infinite fractals, infinitely, going. When you stop feeding your body the right stuff, guess what? You have cell degradation. You have obesity. You have all these viruses that could potentially help you now turn you into a malfunction person. That's looking at death pretty soon, if not tomorrow or 15 years from now. It's in the cards. Anyways. All right. Talk to you guys later. Bye. Hope you didn't get too offended by me coming down on you, Tanya. But I noticed that your thought process is still along those fear tactics, and I want to see if I can disrupt that programming just a little bit. All right. Bye.